This episode is sponsored by Noom. If you're like me, you may have seen a lot online about GLP-1 medication. Noom is a leader in behavior change weight loss, and they now offer Noom GLP-1, a compounded semaglutide. Noom GLP-1 is affordable. It starts at only $149. I feel like a lot of people think these type of medications may be out of their reach financially, but Noom offer a very affordable option at $149. For those that qualify, Noom GLP-1 is available and ships to your door in 7 days. Noom combines their proven weight loss program with GLP-1s so that you can lose weight and keep it off, which I know sometimes you can lose the weight. It's always hard to keep it off, but Noom's GLP-1s can really help with that. Noom GLP-1 comes with Companion, which is your guide to better and more sustainable GLP-1 weight loss, which is so helpful.
With Noom GLP-1, you get access to a doctor, a coach, and a supportive community, all from within the app on your phone. Ask your care team anything and get support with medication and side effect management. Noom GLP-1 starts at $149 and is delivered to your door in 7 days. Start your GLP-1 journey today at Noom.com. That's Noom.com. Noom, the smart way to lose weight. Disclaimer, not all customers will medically qualify for prescription medications. Compounded medications are not reviewed by the FDA for safety, efficacy, or quality.
Stop by Sherwin-Williams and get 30% off select paints and stains May 2nd through the 12th. It's the perfect time to transform your space with color. Refresh your home inside and out with colors that make every space feel brand new. From cozy interiors to stunning exteriors, we've got the perfect shade for your next project. Shop the sale online or visit your neighborhood Sherwin-Williams store. Click the banner to learn more. Retail sales only. Some exclusions apply. See store for details.
The True Crime Society podcast contains adult themes and violence and is not intended for all audiences. Listener discretion is advised. And if you'd like to skip the intro or move to any specific part of the podcast, please refer to the timestamps listed in the episode description. Thank you.
What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of True Crime Society podcast with Stephanie and Olivia. It is May 1st right now, and just quick disclaimer, as I've probably said in every episode so far, but I'm still struggling with being able to breathe because I'm pregnant. If you haven't heard, you've probably heard by now because we've been talking about it. But if you're like, wow, this bitch sounds really winded, it's because I am. I'm doing my best. I'm sorry. Anyways, it is May 1st, 2025, a new month. The weather is lovely here in New York, finally. Hopefully it stays that way. And yeah, it finally feels like spring. Summer's just around the corner. Very excited to get to it.
Yeah, here it's been torrential. This is our last, I think, February. I don't know. I'm pretty sure this is the last month of, I might be wrong, autumn, winter. Anyway, whatever. We're getting close to winter, but the weather has been torrential here. Wild, like rain so heavy that you can't see, flooding. It's been wild. The sun is out right now. I sent you a photo this morning. There was a cool rainbow as I was driving. So
yeah, a double rainbow.
Yeah, and it was weird because as I was driving, I could actually see the end of it, which I feel like I never can. But it was just getting further and further.
That's happened to me before too.
I was just getting further and further away, and I'm like, well, is that just not a metaphor for life, really?
Yeah, it's a trick.
See the jackpot, you just can't get it.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so 2nd of May here, new start to the month. Everyone's feeling positive, but today there's been this wild incident happen near where I live. If you're in Australia, I'm sure it'll make the news all day today, but basically I live about an hour north of Sydney, so that between where I live and there's a freeway. That's the only way you can get there, essentially. And a truck today has lost its load of tiny pieces of scrap metal all along the freeway. So there are now apparently 300 cars on the side of the freeway with all flat tires.
So crazy.
I can't even just imagine this magnitude of trying to fix this problem, like trying to get enough people, enough tires even. I don't even know how this could
enough
even work.
Tires.
Like
amazing news for the tire business.
I know. Imagine a tire company today is like, oh my God, I have hit the jackpot today.
Yeah. Right.
But there's photos already coming out of these tires just pierced with multiple pieces of metal. They've had to use magnetic equipment to come and pick up all the pieces because street sweepers can't get it. It's wild. I am very, very glad I don't have to be on the freeway right this morning. I am meant to go to Sydney tonight. We're going to see Gracie Abrams in concert tonight, but hopefully by then it will be cleared or I can just go a back way. But very, very wild. I would be. And that, like this morning, as I said, torrential rain. Imagine being stuck on the side of the freeway with 4 pierced tires. It would be a disaster.
And like, who pays for that?
Yeah. Well, that's like, apparently the truck company has come forward and said, let us know of any damages and we'll pay. But I'm like people are they going to pay for my lost wages today because I couldn't get to work? It's just a minefield of, minefield.
Yeah, what a mess.
Yeah. Someone is having, a tire person is having a really good day. The truck company is having a very bad day.
Yeah. That's life. Oh my God. Now Peep's like sitting on my chest. Now I really can't breathe. Okay, so we'll get into what we're talking about today. Also, another apology disclaimer right now. I'm talking like over Peep's head if it sounds muffled at all. It probably shouldn't, but she's also right between my face and the microphone, basically purring away. So if you hear her purring, I apologize, but maybe it'll be nice and relaxing for you.
Oh, do you know what we could do? Do you want to do that listener of the week thing I see? What was
Oh,
it?
yeah.
Okay. So last week's listener of the week was Wallace. This week it's Keith. And I'm assuming Wallace was maybe a man. I know I shouldn't assume based on name, but we generally true crime podcasts have a predominantly female audience. And I feel like anytime we look at the stats, our audience is over 90% female. So it is nice to get some male feedback as well. And this week is Keith. So I'm assuming again, probably a male. Looks like
it's funny because I just assume it's like a wife on like a shared account.
Yeah, well, do you know what? It actually could be, so I could be totally wrong. But
we can pretend.
Keith said, I just started listening to your podcast a couple of weeks ago and I'm already back in October 2024. I listen all the time. Don't listen to any complaints. The best part is the chat at the beginning and it's always a pick me up. So that's so nice. And obviously, we always get comments from people saying they love Peep and they love to hear Peep in the background. And I feel like we get most of our comments in the first few days after our latest episode comes out. So it hasn't even been out for 24 hours. So when I went through all the comments this morning, there was quite a lot. I'll just read out a few more because we really appreciate people taking the time. And I think it's nice to be acknowledged for that. So yeah. Paige wrote, as a mum, I don't get as many girls' nights with my friends anymore. So your chats make me feel like I'm at a Mexican restaurant eating chips and salsa and margs with my friends. Thanks for the invite.
Oh my God, I want chips and salsa.
I know. And it's funny here because it's like 8:30 in the morning when we record. And I'm like, yeah, I could go a marg. And Devin wrote, my favorite podcast. Generally look forward to Thursdays. Not only do I enjoy true crime content and appreciate the research you do around your busy lives, I enjoy the way it feels like I catch up with friends. Keep up the good work. So that's very kind.
Yeah, I love those ones. Again, sorry, I'm talking over Peep. If it sounds like I'm struggling. As I already can't breathe, she's suffocating me slowly. I wish I could take a picture of how she's laying right now. I love those reviews because when we started the podcast, I always wanted it to be that vibe of like
casual
at a Mexican restaurant with your friends. You're just talking about it. Because sometimes we get hate from people who just don't understand what the vibe of the podcast is supposed to be. We're not claiming to be journalists or serious reporters. We're just kind of chatting about crimes that are in the news as two girls that are interested in true crime. Yeah. And sometimes I know as you grow up and get older, especially, thank you, Peep, especially when people start having kids and just kind of grow apart from the friends that you had when you were younger, sometimes it's hard to find people to like chat about these things with. Even though true crime is popular, it's still kind of a niche, taboo interest in a way. So we always wanted it to be something like that, like a casual just chat with your friends.
Yeah, and we have always said that too in our bio. Like I'm paraphrasing because I don't have it in front of me, but
we
it's
try
along the lines of a casual true crime conversation. But I know that not everyone reads the bio based on the timestamp comments we also get.
Yeah.
Anyway.
So thank you to everyone for the nice comments. It is motivating, even if it feels like we don't read them or something. We do. It helps us a lot.
Yeah.
Okay, so today we are going to be talking about the case of missing Timmothy Pitzen. This one we've had on our radar to do for a long time. No reason really why we haven't done it yet. We just it's been in the circulation.
Yeah, I've always followed this case. Like I knew a fair bit about it as the years have gone on. It is a very mysterious case. I just always blows my mind how someone can disappear without absolutely no trace, and that's what has happened in this case. And it's now been 14 years. So yeah, I always, not always, but I often think about him and wonder what happened to him.
Yeah. So it's been suggested to us a lot, probably over the years, but recently it was suggested to us again by Kelsey Ann on Instagram. So you get the shout out. Thank you. And anyone else who shouted out, thank
Yes,
you
thank
also.
you.
So this happened in 2011. Timothy, went on vacation with his mother Amy in May of that year, and Amy ended up taking her own life during the trip. And she left a note that said that Timothy was safe, but that he would never be seen again, that he would never be found. And now, almost 14 years later, he hasn't been found and he still remains missing. So, what happened to Timothy?
Grainy, distant video from a hotel security camera from 10 years ago. The last images Jim Pitzen has of his then 6-year-old son, Timothy. The National Center for Missing and Exploited Children has released this age progression photo, imagining what Timothy looks like now at 16 years old. Neither his father nor anyone he knows has seen or heard from Timothy since his mother took him out of school in Aurora on this date in 2011.
I know he's out there with someone else. It's just a matter of time before I find him or he finds me.
Amy Pitzen took her son on a trip to visit the Brookfield Zoo, to Key Lime Cove Water Park in Gurnee and Kalahari Water Park in Wisconsin Dells. Police eventually found her body in a Rockford motel room where she died by suicide. But there was no sign of Timothy, just a note saying she left him with someone safe, but no one would find him. And so far, no one has, including Aurora police, who say they continue to investigate the case but have no strong leads.
It haunts everybody who works on this case because it's the unknown. We don't know, is Timothy out there alive somewhere?
10 years from the last time he saw Timothy, his father remains determined to continue the search to find his son.
Timothy's out there. Don't be afraid to come out and say, I think I've seen him here, or I think I've seen him there, or he might be standing next to you right now and you don't even know it.
Aurora police say they're keeping an open mind in this case. They say it's been quite some time since they had what they'd consider a substantial lead, but they're hoping that the release of the age progression photo will help spur more calls. In Aurora, John Garcia, ABC 7 Eyewitness News.
Today's episode is sponsored by IQ Bar. IQ Mix is a zero sugar drink mix from IQ Bar that hydrates, boosts your mood, and promotes mental clarity. I always speak about how much I love these IQ Mix sachets. They're so delicious. I love picking one out and seeing what flavor I'm going to have today. There's 7 different flavors that you can choose from: passion fruit, pina colada, lemon lime, peach mango, pink lemonade, and raspberry lemonade. I really love the lemonade flavors. The raspberry lemonade is probably my favorite at the moment. It's just so delicious, so refreshing. I really love that they have 3 times the electrolytes of other sports drinks, and they're packed with electrolytes and nutrients that can help sustain your physical performance, which is so good during the day. It just helps you get through. I absolutely love it.
With over 20,000 5-star reviews and counting, more people than ever are starting their days on the right foot with IQ Bar's brain and body boosting bars, hydration mixes, and mushroom coffees. I've talked about before how I have a hard time drinking water. I just don't remember to drink it. It's so boring, but the IQ mixes really make it a lot easier to remember to drink water throughout the day because it's like a little treat. And right now, IQ Bar is offering our special podcast listeners 20% off all IQ Bar products, plus get free shipping. So you're 20% off, text CRIME to 64,000. Text CRIME to 64,000. That's CRIME to 64,000. Message and data rates may apply. See terms for details. So start some background on Timothy and his family and the whole situation. So Timothy was born in Aurora, Illinois on October 18, 2004. And his parents are James, who goes by Jim Pitzen, and Amy Joan Marie Fry Pitzen. So Jim, the father, he was born and raised in Clinton, Iowa, and Amy was born on May 3rd, 1968 to Lee and Alana Anderson Fry. Amy grew up in Libertyville, Iowa, and graduated from Libertyville High School and Iowa State University. Jim and Amy met in 2002 at a going-away party for Amy in Ames, Iowa. Amy was leaving Iowa to move to Illinois, and Jim had moved to Ames for work, and a friend had asked him to come along to the farewell party. Jim and Amy were very different. So it said that Amy enjoyed parties and traveling, and Jim said that he's just a regular guy who likes the Blackhawks, fixing up cars, and getting a quiet beer with a friend every now and then. After the party, Jim and Amy began dating. Jim helped her move to Illinois, and they began a long-distance relationship. Jim would make the 354-mile or 5.5-hour drive to see Amy every few weeks. Jim learned that Amy, who was 34 at the time, had been divorced 3 times. He also said that she had a history of depression and had attempted suicide twice. She told Jim that she had once parked her car on some train tracks, but then reconsidered at the last minute. She checked herself into a psych ward after that incident. When Jim and Amy were dating, Amy tried to take her life. Jim became worried as Amy had been stressed following a job interview and she had stopped answering her phone. He got a call from a hospital who told him that Amy had taken sleeping pills and had fallen down a 30-foot embankment, where she fractured a vertebrae and suffered hypothermia. Jim was stunned and frightened when Amy finally called. What was happening with her, he asked. She told him, "Oh, I'm better. I'm back on my meds, and I've seen a couple doctors. They've changed stuff around, and I'm feeling really good." Among her prescriptions were lorazepam, which is the generic of Ativan, for anxiety, and also Wellbutrin and Lexapro for depression. The problem was that she didn't always take her medications, and when she didn't, she was a different person. Jim said, "She'd act real funny, big highs and lows. She'd become real emotional. If I asked her whether she was taking her pills, she'd yell at me, quote, 'Don't ask me about that.'" He soon began to avoid the subject. Amy's sister Kara has spoken to the media and said that they didn't have an easy family life growing up. She said, "It's just something me and my sister and my brother have all struggled with in different ways." Kara said, "My sister basically spent her life searching for something that would make her happy. You know, this job will make me happy. Living here will make me happy." When her first husband introduced her to the Mormon faith, to which she would remain adherent to for the rest of her life, she thought it might be the answer. But that, like so many other promising things, was followed by an inevitable letdown. Kara went on to say, "I think at her core, she was just unhappy and she was not able to get through that. The counseling, the medication, none of it really worked." Amy has said that she was worried that she may pass her mental health issues on to any child that she had, and therefore she didn't want any children. She and Jim had discussed this and thought it was a moot point anyways. Jim had Hodgkin's lymphoma when he was 20 and was told that the chemo he underwent made him sterile. So, of course, the couple was shocked when Amy found out that she was pregnant, just over a year after they started dating. Her sister Kara said they both kind of looked at it as a miracle, a sign that this was something meant to happen. So the two decided to get married in May 2004 when Amy was 4 months pregnant. They moved to Aurora, Illinois. By that point, both Jim and Amy were working for Amy's father's commercial real estate company. As we mentioned, Timothy was born in October 2004, and his name is spelled with 2 M's, which is different. He was named after Amy's brother Timothy, who passed away at birth, and the extra letter was added to distinguish between the two. Her sister Kara said it was like all of a sudden her life had meaning. That, okay, maybe this is it. I was meant to be Tim's mom, and this is my path. And it did seem to be for a while. She seemed to be very happy. By all accounts, she doted on Tim. Jim said he was the apple of her eye. They were inseparable. And Kara said they almost spoke their own language. Jim talked about Timothy. He said he was super smart, high energy, funny. He said that he had a funny little waddle shuffle like a chubby old man. He said, "I had a go-kart in the back shed. When Tim was about 3, I made the gas pedal so you couldn't push it all the way down. He was out in the backyard just buzzing donuts." So Jim and Amy's marriage had many stressors. Amy's father had to close his business at one point, which made them lose their jobs. So Jim had already moved on to new employment at that point, but Amy was out of work because of it. She ended up finding a new position, but her depression and anxiety were worsening. In 2008, they almost split up after Jim found texts between Amy and one of her ex-husbands. They discussed getting together while Jim was out of town. Jim says they had lunch a couple of times and they were supposed to meet that weekend. "I told her to make up her mind. If you want to be with that guy, go be with that guy. We'll get a divorce, and I don't care how much money your dad has. I'll find a way to get custody of Timothy." Of all the harsh words that they'd spoken to each other, that threat stuck with Amy the most. One of her fears was that a judge would take Timothy from her and grant Jim custody because she had a history of mental health issues. Kara said that terrified her. Amy decided to stay, Jim said. Amy decided to stay. Jim said, But I told her, if I find another text to your ex, we're done. And as far as he knows, they didn't have any further contact. By May 2011, Jim and Amy's 7-year marriage seemed to be failing. Jim said they'd been fighting for weeks prior. One of their fights was regarding a trip that Amy had planned to the Bahamas. Jim objected to the trip and it caused some issues. Amy had then taken a trip anyway with a friend, and she seemed happy when she returned. Jim said she had a good time, things weren't perfect, but she seemed back to normal. On the afternoon of May 10, 2011, Amy came home early from work saying that she was unwell. She left her car parked at her job. Jim made arrangements to get to work later himself the next day so that he could drop Timothy off at school and then drop Amy off at work since her vehicle was there. So Jim has spoken about the events of the following day, May 11th. He said, Tim hopped out the back of the Jeep and waved, love you, Dad. He said, love you too. I'll see you in a little bit. He watched his son in his t-shirt and green shorts bound away with a Spider-Man backpack bouncing behind him. In the car outside Amy's job, the couple kissed. He said, I said love you. She said love you too. And then I just watched her go in the building. The kindergarten day was very short, and Timothy was due to be picked up by Jim at 10:30 a.m. But when Jim went inside, the teacher at the check-in desk looked at him puzzled. What are you doing here? He said, I'm here to pick up Tim. She said, he left this morning. He said, what? Can I see who signed him out? And he looked at the signature, and it was Amy. Amy had told the school that she was collecting Timothy as there was a family emergency. Jim started calling Amy, and she didn't answer his calls, so he left messages, but she didn't return any of the calls anyways. Jim assumed that Amy was still mad about their Bahamas argument. He said that she would drive somewhere for a few hours to clear her head. He did think it was unusual that she'd taken Timothy with her this time. Jim called Kara to ask if she had heard from Amy, but she hadn't. But a few days prior, Amy had called and tried to talk to Kara, but Kara was busy. She said, she obviously wanted to talk, but I was late for something. I just wasn't up to getting into something heavy at the moment, so I rushed her off the phone. Jim started searching their home and found that Amy had not taken any of her medication with her. The bottles were full and untouched, which indicates to Jim that she may not have been taking them for a while. He tried to file reports with the Aurora Police Department, and an officer told him, well, we have to give her a little more time. Another 24 hours at least. The next day, two officers showed up at his work. They said, okay, we'll just take the missing persons report. Do you have a picture of the two of them? Jim thought a minute, and then he realized he had something that might work. He said, I went home and found a dot matrix photo of them at Chuck E. Cheese and said, this is the best I can do off the top of my head. They said, okay, we'll file this, and if something else happens, we'll get back to you. Which, I don't know if I'm being judgmental, but weird to me that's the best he got.
Yeah, out of all the photos, I guess back then, I don't know. I guess it is 2011.
But even
but
when I was younger, my family had pictures hanging up, pictures on the walls, pictures. The internet existed then,
And the other thing is, why would they need a photo of the two of them? They could have had photos side by side of separate photos, which I'm sure they had plenty of those, even if they didn't have any of them together. But anyway.
Yeah, just always was a weird part to me of just well, we get this dot matrix photo. By Friday, May 13th, 2011, Amy finally reached out. She called her mother, and their mother then called Kara. Everything's fine, their mother told Kara. She was upset and she just needed some time alone. We all kind of breathed a sigh of relief, and then this Kara talking about it, she said, we all kind of breathed a sigh of relief, okay, she'll be coming home soon. One of Amy's next calls was not to Jim, but to his older brother, Chuck. Puzzled and concerned, Chuck asked her to phone Jim. A father had a right to know where his wife and child were, he told her. Amy's reply struck the brother as disturbing. She said, Tim is my son, and I can do what I want. Chuck told Jim about the call, and Jim attempted to call Amy again multiple times, but she didn't answer any of his calls. There had been questions as to why Amy called Chuck and not Jim. Jim would later learn that Amy had apparently tried to call him, but the call failed. But still, why is she calling Chuck?
Yeah. And I'm did she try more than once? Yeah, I have a lot of questions.
Yeah. On Saturday, May 14th, 2011, two detectives from the Aurora Police Department knocked at Jim's door. They told him they had information about Amy. There's a very comprehensive article about the case from chicagomag.com, and the details about this incident are from that article.
And also a lot of the quotes that we've mentioned so far from the people involved, like Cara and Jim, it's kind of almost a bit like a Rolling Stone format article where they go into a lot of detail. I've linked it on the blog and quoted it all there. So if you want to check it out, it's linked there. But they did a lot of interviews with the family.
So this is from the article. "We found Amy deceased," one of the detectives said. Jim stared at him for a moment. He heard the words, but they didn't register. "What do you mean deceased?" The detectives explained that she had been found in a Rockford motel, dead of an apparent suicide. Jim was still trying to make sense of the news when the next thought popped into his head. "Where's Tim? Where's my son?" The detectives looked at each other, then back at Jim. "We don't know. He wasn't there." "We're looking," said the other detective. So Jim learned that Amy had left behind a suicide note in the motel room. She also mailed letters to her mother and her best friend. She wrote to her mom, "I've taken him somewhere safe. He will be well cared for, and he says that he loves you. Please know that there is nothing that you could have said or done that would have changed my mind."
The suicide note that she left in the room has never been released either. Like in the article from Chicago Mag, they kind of talk about how it's been paraphrased for the media, but it's never been released. Like photos have never been released. A transcript of it has never been released. But all of the notes seem to have gone along the lines of Amy saying
He's
Tim was
safe.
safe, but they would never find him. So police started to investigate Amy's last movements in an attempt to track down where Timothy was. They discovered that as soon as Jim had dropped Amy to work, she had left immediately in her 2004 blue Ford Expedition that she'd left parked there the day before. So this kind of indicates that she had likely planned this. She came home from work sick. I don't know why, like she could have still done the exact same thing if I don't know. It's kind of weird that she still could have picked him up even if she was at work in her own vehicle, if that makes sense.
It was kind of like a weird roundabout way.
Yeah, to go about it. But anyway, she apparently planned it because she didn't go into work. She went and got a car and left to get Timothy.
Like, I don't get why she left her car.
Yeah. Maybe it was
there.
so she would more so, I don't know, like maybe it was to maybe put, I don't know. Yeah, it could be, as I say, to maybe just so nothing arose in Jim to make him think that something was off. I'm assuming Amy probably usually dropped him if Jim had to make special arrangements to go late so he could drop Timothy. I don't know. It just is a weird thought process.
Yeah, I'm just like, she could have just driven to work in her own car as she normally would. And like you said, still left work with her car. You know,
I guess the thing is, if she just what she could have done is maybe now I'm just thinking about it as we're talking, but maybe she did it this way because if she didn't take Timothy to school at all, maybe it would have had an email sent or a text or something about an absence. Whereas this way, it raised kind of less eyebrows because he was dropped there and then she went and picked him up for this family emergency. So
yeah, like shortly after.
Yeah. Anyway, I don't know. That could be why. Amy arrived back at the school at around 8:15. Timothy can be seen with Amy in the lobby on CCTV around 20 minutes after that. At 10 a.m., Amy drove to an auto repair shop. So her car was a few years old by that point, and it suggests that she knew she would likely be driving hundreds of miles and she wanted to be able to make sure that the car would make that distance and that everything was in order for the car to travel that distance. An employee of the repair shop dropped Amy and Timothy to the Brookfield Zoo. At around 3 p.m., Amy and Timothy went and retrieved their car and they drove around an hour north to the Key Lime Cove Water Resort in Gurnee, Illinois. They stayed there for one night. I believe now that is a Great Wolf Lodge location. So that's the kind of place it was, somewhere where you'd take kids, water park type thing. The next day, which was Thursday, they drove to the Kalahari Resort in Wisconsin Dells. This was around 165 miles or just over 2 hours from where they first stopped. They stopped at stores along the way to buy clothes for Timothy. They got toys, gas, drinks. So he was seen at a few different places. He was still alive by that point. After spending the night at the Kalahari, they checked out the next morning and they can be seen again together on CCTV at the reception desk. And these are the last known images of Timothy. So he looks like he's got a backpack on, socks, shoes. Like she's in one still, she's reaching out her hand to him, like to hold his hand. He looks fine. This episode is sponsored by Noom. If you're like me, you may have seen a lot online about GLP-1 medication. Noom is a leader in behavior change weight loss, and they now offer Noom GLP-1, a compounded semaglutide. Noom GLP-1 is affordable. It starts at only $149. I feel like a lot of people think these type of medications may be out of their reach financially, but Noom offer a very affordable option at $149. For those that qualify, Noom GLP-1 is available and ships to your door in 7 days. Noom combines their proven weight loss program with GLP-1s so that you can lose weight and keep it off, which I know sometimes you can lose the weight. It's always hard to keep it off, but Noom's GLP-1s can really help with that. Noom GLP-1 comes with Companion, which is your guide to better and more sustainable GLP-1 weight loss, which is so helpful.
With Noom GLP-1, you get access to a doctor, a coach, and a supportive community, all from within the app on your phone. Ask your care team anything and get support with medication and side effect management. Noom GLP-1 starts at $149 and is delivered to your door in 7 days. Start your GLP-1 journey today at Noom.com. That's Noom.com. Noom, the smart way to lose weight. Disclaimer, not all customers will medically qualify for prescription medications. Compounded medications are not reviewed by the FDA for safety, efficacy, or quality.
Amy then drove for around 170 miles. At 12:30 p.m., she stopped and made the calls that we mentioned earlier to her friends and family. Timothy could apparently be heard in the background at that point. He mentioned that he was hungry, and Timothy apparently spoke with his Uncle Chuck at that point, so he was still alive then. After she made the calls, Amy turned off her phone and drove south along the Rock River to Sterling, Illinois. And this is around 80 miles west of their home in Aurora. Amy's family have said that they have no idea why she went to that area. They looked into her iPass history, which is, I'm guessing, toll, like her toll tag.
Yeah, probably like an easy pass.
Yeah. It showed that she had made at least 2 trips to the area previously. So she was going to this area for some reason. They don't know why. They've said they don't know they don't believe she knew anyone there, but maybe she was going to kind of scope it out for whatever reason.
Mm-hmm.
What she did for the next several hours after that remains unknown. At 8 p.m., she resurfaced on CCTV. She was seen alone at a Sullivan's Foods in Winnebago in Illinois. She purchased stationery and envelopes, and it's assumed that this is what she wrote her suicide notes on. She then checked into the Rockford Motel at 11:30 p.m. and a maid had found her body at 12:30 the next day. So I've read the maid kind of went to, I guess, clean the room. She'd probably only paid and booked for one night, and that she wasn't able to open the door fully, but she could open it a little bit and saw Amy's body lying there. So they called authorities and got into the room. Amy had used a box cutter to slash her wrist and her neck. Police found a partially consumed bottle of liquid cough and cold medicine for children, as well as Tim's child ID card. Amy left a note for the hotel staff and said that she was sorry that they would have to clean up after her. Amy's cell phone was not found in the motel room at the time. They also didn't find any of the toys or things that Amy had purchased for Timothy along the way on their vacation. And this gave the family some hope that maybe Timothy was with someone and was with the toys and the things that he had had. Amy's visitation was held on May 20th, 2011, and her funeral was held the following day. Cara has spoken about Jim's shock during the services. She said he barely moved during the entire wake. He didn't eat anything. He didn't speak much. He just stood next to the casket. I remember thinking, do you need to go to the bathroom or anything? Because he never moved from that spot. He was just totally numb. We all were. Investigators examined the box cutter that Amy had taken her life with, and they found only remnants of her blood on it. They did say, though, there was a concerning amount of blood found in her car and that the blood did belong to Timothy. But the family said they thought the blood was due to a very severe nosebleed that Timothy had suffered not long before he vanished. Police also processed evidence found on Amy's SUV in an attempt to narrow down where she might have gone with Timothy or where she may have taken him. This is an excerpt from the police report or from a police statement. And because obviously on the car they found like dirt and kind of biological debris and things like that. So it goes on to say, based on sediments and plant material, the vehicle was stopped for an unknown period of time on a wide gravel shoulder, gravel road or short gravel turnout, either adjacent to or just off an asphalt secondary road that had at one time been treated with glass road marking beads. In close proximity to the gravel shoulder or road where the vehicle stopped, it backed into a grassy meadow or field to a spot that is nearly treeless. There are birch and oak trees in the general area, but not directly over the spot where the SUV stopped. Both Queen Anne's lace and black mustard plants grow in a row along the border of the field or the shoulder of the road. In addition, there is no corn growing in or adjacent to the spot where the SUV stopped, nor is there any indication that the area had been used for agriculture in the past. Instead, the evidence strongly suggests that grasses have been the only major plants growing in the area, which leads scientists to believe that it is a meadow and, for example, not a field that has once been farmland or not recently sowed. Forensic results indicate that the grass was not cut, which helps rule out it is a rural residential lawn or a park. And there is also a strong likelihood that there is a pond, small stream, or creek in the area.
Very
Scientists,
interesting.
yeah, I'm so amazed. Like, this was back in 2011 and 2012. This is a very detailed description of the area. Like, how do they know there is no corn growing there? Like, it's just wild that how what they could figure out from what they found on the car.
Mm-hmm.
It goes on to say scientists further believe that the meadow is most likely northwestern Illinois, with Lee and Whiteside counties as the most likely locations. However, areas in Carroll, Ogle, Stevenson, and Winnebago counties cannot be ruled out. Microtrace has since performed other tests but has not been able to further narrow down the 6-county area, which is an area much too large for the police to conduct ground searches. They go on to say missing items that may yield clues and those which people should be looking for include Timothy's Spider-Man backpack, several toys, and a tube of toothpaste that Amy bought for Timothy before he disappeared. And they were also looking at the time for Amy's cell phone and her iPass. The statement says, since there are several state parks and other popular areas for outdoor enthusiasts in that part of Illinois, police are also hoping that hikers, bikers, boaters, and other visitors will be on the lookout for other items. So despite having this seemingly very specific information, I guess it could be specific to so many areas, like a field that hasn't been mowed for a while, that could be a lot of places. But it does seem like they have so much information about the type of area and still to this day have not been able to find where it was.
Yeah, it just seems like there's probably a lot of areas that could look like that.
So this all happened in 2011. In 2013, Amy's phone was found on Route 78 north of Mount Carroll in Illinois. She had disposed of her phone behind a grain storage building. So I've read some theories that basically they think she just drove past and threw it out and it kind of lay in the grass for, whatever the brush or bush behind that area until it was found. There's no indication that it was stolen and placed there. It is believed that Amy did discard her phone there. Over the years, there have been many reported sightings of Timothy. None of them have panned out. One of the most seemingly legitimate ones happened in April 2019. And I remember when this happened. I'm pretty sure we posted about it at the time. But residents in Newport, Kentucky called police to report a distraught teenager who was shaken and wandering the streets. When authorities found the person, he said that his name was Timothy Pitzen. So the family thought maybe this could be something. Maybe, he'd been housed by someone and had run away and he'd left. And so they did DNA results and the family were agonizing while they waited, for the results as to if this was Timothy. Kara said, I completely got my hopes up. I thought it was real 100%. It just didn't occur to me that it couldn't be him. I was thinking things like, who's going to pick him up? Does he need clothes? And she was packing her stuff to get there to go and get him. But thankfully, I guess the family didn't have to wait very long. The DNA results came back quite quickly. This person turned out to be a man named Brian Michael Rinney, who was actually 23 and he wasn't a teenager. He was a criminal who had been released from Belmont Correctional Institution in Ohio less than a month prior to saying he was Timothy. He'd served around 14 months on charges of burglary and vandalism. He also had a history of mental illness and he had been diagnosed with Asperger's syndrome and bipolar disorder, according to his brother. He was sentenced to 2 years in prison for saying that he was Timothy. At the time, the Aurora police spokesman, Sergeant Bill Rowley, said, although we are disappointed that this turned out to be a hoax, we remain diligent in our search for Timothy as our missing persons case remains unsolved. So 2022 marked Timothy's 18th birthday. His family spoke to the media and they've said they believe he is still alive. Kara said, it's 100% a story of hope for us. The entire family believes that Tim is out there and that Tim is alive. It's not over yet. He's not living the life that we think he should be living because I think he should be with his father. One day we are going to see him and you're going to see the other side of the story and that's going to be amazing. Both Kara and Tim have said that they emphatically reject the theory that this may have been a murder-suicide, as in Amy murdered Timothy before taking her own life. Kara said, not for 1 second did I think Timothy was in danger. It never occurred to me. She went on to say that she believed Amy was worried that she may lose custody of Timothy if Jim was to divorce her because of her history of mental illness. Kara said she was worried about losing custody of Tim and that was a real possibility and was just something that she could not handle. In 2022, Kara said that she eventually got up the courage to drive the same route that Amy did with Timothy. It took her a long time, I believe. Obviously, it's not something that you want to kind of do, is track someone's last movements and figure it out. But she eventually did do it. And this info about that is from NBC Chicago. She said, if you turn left, that will take you to Dubuque. And she remembered that this road was one that she and Amy had traveled on as children, and that Dubuque, Iowa was a place that they had often visited. She said, we spent a lot of time on Route 20 back and forth when we were young, visiting our grandparents and an aunt and an uncle. Amy actually lived with my grandparents for a period of time in the 90s. She met people in Iowa, and I believe whatever happened was a connection that she made there. Cara said that she believed Timothy was handed off to another family in Iowa. In 2024, Jim released a public message to Timothy on the anniversary of his disappearance. He said, Dear Timothy, the years apart have been hard. I am so looking forward for us to be reunited. There is so much of your young life I have not been able to be part of while you have been missing. The future is bright, and I look forward to spending time with you and getting to know my son again. Till I see you again, love, Dad. So, as we mentioned, we are now basically exactly 14 years since the disappearance. The family have spoken to the media again this year in March. Timothy's auntie, Jen, told the media, it's kind of unfathomable that you can just go missing and no one ever sees you again. She said, I've never allowed myself to believe that we're not going to find him, even though we may not. I believe he's okay and he's out there living somewhere. He probably doesn't even know who he really is. But he's an adult now, and I've always thought maybe something would happen. Maybe a memory would pop up and start a chain reaction in his mind to help him realize, and I still think that's the most likely way we'll get him back. The family also have said that they believe Amy's religious beliefs may hold clues as to what happened to Timothy. As we mentioned, Amy had converted to Mormonism before her death, and the family have said they believe Timothy could have been given to a family in the Mormon church and have been raised in some type of remote commune with no access to the outside world, so he didn't even realize that he was missing or who he was or anything like that. Jen, his aunt, said that she believes Timothy was first taken to Texas and now believes that he resides within one of the numerous Mormon communities south of the border in Mexico, which would account for why there have never been any credible sightings of Timothy in the US. Jen said Amy was the only Mormon in her family and our family, and I think she wanted Tim raised within the church. It's the only thing I can think of that is plausible. Where else can you go where no one recognizes you and you can stay hidden? She said, we think he was told something happened to his parents and you're just going to live with us now, something along those lines. I think he's in Mexico within one of these communities that protects their own. I don't have proof, of course, but it's just a gut feeling. So, yeah, May 11, we're recording on May 1st here. So in the next few weeks, it's going to be the anniversary. As we mentioned, no confirmed sightings of Timothy, plenty of, reported ones, but none of them have been confirmed. He still now remains missing 14 years later. In terms of theories in the case, we did mention one then, which was that Amy had given Timothy to someone for some reason. I don't know. I feel like this just seems very implausible. I guess it could happen. Did she really just not want Jim to have him? It's like she was scared of losing custody, but by all accounts, Jim seemed like a loving father, a good father. Maybe it was just a case of if I can't have him, nobody will.
Yeah, she was clearly mentally unwell too, so maybe not thinking rationally. I don't know what I think. Like, do you think that he could still be alive?
No,
I feel like my gut says he probably died soon after.
Yeah.
So before she killed herself.
Is that Amy murdered Timothy and dumped his body, which is very similar to what I believe happened in the Skelton brothers case, which is another one that we've covered. Basically, in terms of the Skelton brothers, they were last seen with their father, John. Their names were Tanner, Alexander, and Andrew. They were last seen with him over 14 years ago. They've never been seen again. John has always denied that he has killed them. Their mother, Tanya, has had them declared dead recently. I don't know. I just feel like the most likely thing is that Amy was very unwell and she did kill Timothy. People have always focused on her saying that he was safe. But when I was reading some theories about this case, people theorized that safe to her means with God because she was very religious and had her beliefs. So for her, him being with God would be safer than being with Jim, maybe is what she meant. This episode is sponsored by Noom. If you're like me, you may have seen a lot online about GLP-1 medication. Noom is a leader in behavior change weight loss, and they now offer Noom GLP-1, a compounded semaglutide. Noom GLP-1 is affordable. It starts at only $149. I feel like a lot of people think these type of medications may be out of their reach financially, but Noom offer a very affordable option at $149. For those that qualify, Noom GLP-1 is available and ships to your door in 7 days. Noom combines their proven weight loss program with GLP-1s so that you can lose weight and keep it off, which I know sometimes you can lose the weight. It's always hard to keep it off, but Noom's GLP-1s can really help with that. Noom GLP-1 comes with Companion, which is your guide to better and more sustainable GLP-1 weight loss, which is so helpful.
With Noom GLP-1, you get access to a doctor, a coach, and a supportive community, all from within the app on your phone. Ask your care team anything and get support with medication and side effect management. Noom GLP-1 starts at $149 and is delivered to your door in 7 days. Start your GLP-1 journey today at Noom.com. That's Noom.com. Noom, the smart way to lose weight. Disclaimer, not all customers will medically qualify for prescription medications. Compounded medications are not reviewed by the FDA for safety, efficacy, or quality. I think that's how it is in a lot of cases where women murder their kids. They think they're saving them from something. Like if they're mentally ill, they think they're saving them from like the world, from whatever. Like Andrea Yates, even though she had like postpartum psychosis, she thought she was saving her kids from something. Sometimes when there's like a messy divorce or domestic violence situation, they think they're saving the kids from the other partner. So I thought that too, that safe could definitely just still mean dead.
Yeah, because she never actually said that he was safe.
Alive.
Yeah, or with someone. And she just said he was safe and that he would never be found again. I feel like the fact that they know that she backed her car into this remote location, it indicates to me that
not a good sign.
She was probably dumping something, whether or not that was a body or belongings. I don't know. I feel like absolutely, for me, I would be shocked if he's alive out there. I hope he is for his family. That would be a great outcome. I just feel in this day and age, it would be so hard for him to remain hidden. Maybe, I don't know, maybe not. I guess if he is in Mexico, like they're saying, that would be more explainable. But I feel like the most likely scenario is Amy was very unwell and she did kill him, and it was a case of, if I can't have him, no one will, and he is safer with God, probably.
Yeah, I agree.
One case that people always bring up in relation to this case and kind of as evidence that Timothy could be alive is the JC Dugard case, which we might do an episode on one day too. That's an example of a child who was missing for a very long time before she was found alive. She was abducted when she was 11 in 1991 while she was walking to a bus stop in California, and she was found alive in 2009. So a very long time after. She'd been abducted by a sex offender. She had a horrific life, but she was found alive and was eventually reunited with her family. So it does happen. Like, stranger things have happened. I believe everyone always thought JC Dugard was dead as well, but that was an abduction, which I don't know. I guess I don't know if that makes any difference in terms of the likelihood of someone being alive. But I just feel, as a gut feeling, that unfortunately Timothy has probably passed away.
Yeah, I feel the same way. I mean, I do think there's a chance she could have handed him off to some family and he didn't know. But he wasn't that young where he wouldn't remember, right? Like,
well, yeah, how old was he? I think he was 6. I think I'm just
I guess maybe.
So he was kind of young. And do you know what? Like he was like, I'm just going back up to the top. Yeah, so he was 6 when he went missing. So, I know at that age you don't remember everything that happens to you. And over time, if he was told a story along the lines of something could happen to his mother and his father, he wouldn't ask any questions about it. He would just, like, as a 6-year-old, you're not going to question that. What you're told is what you're told. So I guess it could be explainable by that. I don't know. I feel like it's very,
I also just
very
don't
unlikely.
understand how, like, if he was handed off to some other family, how they wouldn't have any guilt after all this time. Like, I'm sure they're also like, well, we don't want to get in trouble at this point, but I feel like someone would have said something by now.
Even things like, I don't know.
Social Security.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like, there's so much paperwork.
Does he need that stuff?
I know you can get into Mexico maybe a little bit easier than you can get back into the US. Like, so did they literally just pick him up in Illinois or Iowa or wherever she gave him to this family and just drive straight to Mexico? I don't know. I just feel like it's a lot to take a child that isn't yours and somehow started
And
brand new life with him. Especially this was only, 2011. It wasn't, I know it's still a while ago now, but it's not like it was in the 80s. It was a relatively short amount of time ago in terms of things like CCTV and
there was
identification.
internet, cell phones.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, yeah, I think that, what was I just gonna say? Fuck. Her plan also didn't seem like that organized from the jump, so I just don't see her as organizing this plan that was like so amazing that no one ever figured it out, and she was able to get him like fake birth certificate, fake social security card and number and all this stuff so that he could, because as an adult he'd need that stuff to get a job and to get paid and to make money and all that. So
And
I do think, unfortunately, that she killed him at the time.
I feel like, and I do feel like if this was a case that happened in the 80s, I would be like, yeah, maybe, because I know back then, like, for example, people used to go and find a gravestone of a baby that had died, and that's how they'd get, and use their, like, claim, like, kind of claim that person's identity, and that's how they get their social security number. Whereas I feel like in 2011, that was a lot harder to do.
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like everything points to this, to Amy covering up whatever she did, and in her head she did it for a reason, and that's why she said he was safe, and safe with God is probably the right explanation.
Yeah, I agree.
I don't even think there are really any other theories. Like, this couldn't be a stranger abduction. He wasn't old enough to have walked
No.
away and started a new life for himself. I feel like the only theories are that the only really plausible theories are that Amy did something, or that he was given to someone who has managed to hide him for this whole amount of time.
Yeah, which would be crazy.
Yeah.
But I think the only way we'll ever find out at this point is if they find his remains or someone comes forward, I guess.
Even with things now like ancestry and DNA, like, you would think that eventually it would be found out if he was alive somehow, by something along those lines. It's very, very hard for someone to kind of hide in plain sight these days, especially
Yeah.
a Caucasian child in Mexico. You would think would be maybe a little bit harder. I don't know. I know they think he's living in a remote commune there, so maybe not. But I just feel like it's so hard to remain hidden in this world of technology and DNA and things like that, that it's very unlikely that he is alive at this point. And that's my personal theory.
Yeah, I don't get why anyone is thinking that Amy's like a reliable narrator and someone that we should trust. Like, she's shown by all accounts that she's not someone we should trust, so I don't give her much credit.
She was off her meds. She had a documented history of mental illness, not even just, or maybe she was unwell. She had a documented history of mental illness. Her family have said that she was terrified of losing custody of Timothy. So I just feel like all of that is, a big red flag, and it points to what likely happened to him.
Yeah, agreed. So that's it, I would say, right? That's all my thoughts.
That's it. Yeah.
All right, so let us know what you guys think, or if you have any other theories or anything else. This is a case that people have followed forever, so I'm sure there's lots of other chat and talk about it as well, I guess, but I feel like there really can't be that many different conspiracy theories or anything like that you were saying, but would love to hear what anyone else thinks could have happened to Timothy. So let us know in Spotify comments or on Instagram, wherever you can leave us a comment. Check us out on Instagram if you haven't already. We follow all the latest like crime stories, post all different crime news on there, True Crime Society. And if you want to see what we're up to, my account is StephSum_, Olivia's TCS Olivia. And we also have a Patreon. If you weren't aware, we do weekly bonus episodes. We do all the episodes ad-free, so you get 2 ad-free episodes a week. And we have some fun chats on there. It's kind of like its own community, which is pretty cool. And we also release the regular main episode a day earlier too. So that's cool stuff on Patreon if you want to check it out. Everything will be on the blog at truecrimesocietyblog.com. If you want to read that article, it'll be linked there in all of our sources and everything. Otherwise, just the usual stuff. Leave us a nice comment. Maybe you could be the next listener of the week.
What an accolade. You should hope everyone's aspiring to be listener of the week.
Yeah. Listener of the week, yes. And share to your Instagram stories. We love resharing them, seeing what you guys are doing while you're listening to the podcast. Lots of people walking their dogs, doing some work, baking cakes. Love to see it. So keep doing that. And that is it. So thank you guys for listening. Stay safe out there. Peace out.
See ya.